Sitting down here. Okay, so this panel is called Eyes on AI, because we never talk about AI at any of these shows, so I figured, it'd be good to sort of break it up for a change. But given that that is the case, and everybody seems to have an opinion on AI and whatnot, I'm going to let these people here tell you and explain why you should actually care what they have to say about AI. So just a little bit about what you do, and then why you know something about AI that you can enlighten the audience about.
Okay. Hi, Melva, Benoit. I have a little consulting practice called the Marion Dupree Group, but most recently I was with VideoAmp. And my last sort of kind of fun project at VideoAmp was sort of using AI to build the first sort of analyst agent. There's so much data coming at us, tons and tons of data, and the reality is analyzing media data or media ratings or media information is a very specific, very unique thing. You cannot pull something off the shelf. So we wanted to sort of figure out for our clients, how do you build an agent to basically not replace the analyst at the office, but to basically help them with this deluge of data that's here with us to basically make sense of what's going on. So. Okay,
excellent. Michele.
My name is Michele Edelman. I am the EVP of technology for a company called Matchpoint. And if you have not heard of Matchpoint, we refer to ourselves as kind of the new kid in town. Matchpoint is the underlying technology that has supported Cineverse for the past 7 years. And this is one of those beautiful moments where it was like, I think we have something here, and let's see if we can bring it to the commercial market. So I spoke with the team that put it together, and it was pretty much more of a hell yeah, let's do it. And that's what we're doing. Is anyone here familiar with the media supply chain and how it works and what happens? And whenever you talk to anyone about a media supply chain and entertainment, they're like, oh, like they're just like, you can tell they're just exhausted. They're like, oh yeah, I got that text the other night that my CC didn't line up with my, it's a very, very rigorous process. And when we talk about entertainment, it's all exciting because we're watching streaming services, but people really don't know how it gets there and the process that it goes through. Matchpoint is an automated media supply chain, and it was automated using AI and automation tools. And so when I first kind of caught wind of it, I was like, this is going to change the way that we deliver content. And it has been, and it's going to continue to be. And it's with AI tools that they have been able to speed it up, and facets of automation. And we're doing it, it's happening, and you and I had a conversation about it earlier, and we both went to that place of, oh, and then when I explained it, you're like, wow, and that's what AI does.
Okay, that was a nice little sales pitch, too.
Yeah, Doug Finberg with Parrot Analytics, Partnership Executive. And we have our demand metric around 2 billion audience members engagements with content worldwide. So we're dealing with AI in terms of normalization, noise filtering, and also being able to actually look at those models, those LLMs, and actually going back to our data sets that go back a decade and being able to retro with new meta tags that are coming into play with audience engagement. So that's a real exciting place.
Okay. All right. Mark Mader, president of Symphony AI. We're an enterprise vertically focused AI company. On the media side, we work with really all of the content owners in the space to really understand the distribution, consumption, the audience metrics and KPIs, the monetization, to both explain what's happening today, but also to give insights into what could happen tomorrow. So it's really just a ton of data analytics and AI to really sift through that and use a kind of agentic AI or generative AI to really kind of inform next best steps.
Okay, and your company does have AI in its name, which you're the only one. Here, Muffy did until about a month ago, but now. So, Jonathan, why don't you talk?
It's true.
Yeah.
Jonathan Muffy, founder and CEO of Streamer.ai, now part of Magnite. We use Gen AI to generate TV commercials very quickly and also launch them on TV. And as part of Magnite, we're really doubling down on our white labeling of our tech to larger broadcasters, ad tech platforms, and agencies to help get millions of search and social advertisers into CTV.
Okay, so we've all had the experience, at some point of you give ChatGPT or Gemini a fairly simple PDF and it spits something back and you're like, nah, it doesn't say that. So like at what point, I'll start with you, Melva, like at what point can we sort of say, okay, we're gonna let you do this on your own AI, like as opposed to having, like how close are we to letting these things do this stuff on their own, or are there instances already where you really don't need a whole lot of hands-on?
For where we were, or where I was with the beginning of analysis, we have a ways to go. And the reason why I say that is because all of the rules around measurement and understanding insight have changed. Nielsen created this lovely ecosystem of rating HUD share for a linear world. Well, the lens that you use to analyze in the linear world doesn't hold for this current world that we're in. When you have finite choice, it's really easy to kind of explain what happened last night. When you have infinite choice, now we have to think differently about language. Rating HUD share doesn't matter because what's the HUD, what's the share, like all of those components don't matter. So now how are we going to judge performance? And I can't use 5 years of data to basically benchmarks. We're now in a world where it's about 2 years. I teach media, entertainment, and sports in the digital age at Pepperdine. I have for the last 9 years. It is an intro to media class. We don't have a textbook. In some years, companies have started at the beginning of the semester. They have disappeared by the end of the semester. So explaining to someone the media business, now jump back to, with first-party data, that is not measurement. First-party data is a different horse of a different color. But we've bastardized so many labels or analytics to say, we're going to take measurement, and basically an impression is the same thing with first-party data. It is not. It doesn't mean the same thing. You don't interpret it the same way. So taking an agent and teaching it how to analyze in today's world, and then to basically teach it how to recognize cause and effect, because while I can tell you the difference between two numbers, the last question is, why did that happen? So what do I add to sort of make the interpretation make sense? And that requires someone with a bionic gut. That requires still a human being to come into play. And so we have a ways to go. But then on the other end, we're building a very robust metadata, because that's the back, talk about the works, that's the back of the house, to be able to actually look at a piece of content across any screen and analyze it. And it's like, how do you take AI and very simply give it enough instruction that it can take every iteration of a piece of content and recognize it and know to take something labeled one way on one platform, labeled another way, and know it's the same piece of content, right? So.
Okay, so I'm going to shake. I'm not going to go up down the order. I'm going to go to you, Douglas, because you've been nodding your head a lot.
Yeah, when I think about what you mentioned, it's the concept of we are getting so many signals that are constant and global, and what might look like an anomaly in one country might not be in another. And so there is that human overlay. Has it gotten more efficient, more effective? Absolutely. And multiples of the ability to go through that data. But as mentioned, it's that concept of it really is the backbone of what you have, and having built a decade of content aggregation in terms of what signals are happening around the world to normalize that, if you don't have that in place, it's kind of like saying you have Siri without an iPhone.
Oh, that's interesting. Jonathan.
Yeah, so we, just by taking your business name, generate a creative automatically for you that's contextually relevant. And then we'll also automatically generate a campaign recommendation, demo, geo, behavioral targeting, forecasted budget, budget, forecasted reach. But we give you the option to prompt and make changes. So we make the human the editor in that scenario. Recently, Magnite is now part of developing the AdCP protocol, where it really is agent to agent, and we're trying to do automated buying.
What is that? What is the AdCP protocol?
AdCP is basically Brian O'Kelly and team just had a big webinar where they were promoting kind of open source protocol that's going to be agents talking to other agents over MCP, which is the model context protocol that AdCP is built on. MCP is built by Claude. I know I'm getting into the weeds, but it's the idea that you would do fully automated. A buyer agent could talk to a seller agent autonomously and make advertising transactions. So we're working on the AdCP protocol with, there's like 20 plus founding members. But the big thing that's going to prevent that is buyer trust. Like, you need to be able to give it your budget to automatically transact. But you know, the holy grail that we've talked about for a while as streamer is, imagine you're watching the Super Bowl and this like great moment happens, and you want, as Nike, to like take advantage of that moment at the next mid-roll ad break. We could now automatically generate a Nike commercial that's contextually relevant to that moment, but Nike would need to trust to spend the money and bid for that impression in that moment, and that's not there yet, but that would be, in theory, transacted over something like AdCP.
Right, and I guess a human would have to say, like, let's run the ad now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah. So Michele, what's your
Yeah, you know, I'm the first person who would easily say I don't know, because I don't know. And I feel like in this case, you sort of need a crystal ball. I mean, at the beginning, everyone was like, it's going to take over. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's really not happening so fast. I mean, I'm gonna get a little rudimentary here, but you know, there was just to bring it down off the media shelf for a second. You know, there was a period of time I was reading something on like the transitioning of certain elements, and like when the vacuum cleaner was created, there were people that were like, I'm gonna lose my job. Like, this thing is out there, and it's just gonna, you know, everyone's gonna be vacuuming. I'm not gonna have to show up at people's homes and vacuum. People were really afraid, and that didn't happen. And then, how many people here own a Roomba? And this, okay, all right, more than I thought. You know, that was supposed to replace the vacuum, and it didn't happen.
I wrote about the Roomba in a TVREV article.
I remember
2 years
that.
ago.
Yeah,
I do
it's
remember
like,
that.
just
Sucks, it just
didn't
scares my
happen.
dog, that's it.
Right, it
Yes.
scares people's dogs.
And I didn't buy one because you said it scared your dog. That's going to scare mine.
and I-
Just threw it away last week, I'm
I
not
hate
kidding.
to take it down to that level, but it's like, that's one of those things where like, they're like, oh, vacuum cleaners are gonna completely go away. We have the Roomba now. And it's like, they haven't. And there's a lot that needs to go into things when you're dealing with the, you know, the conscious factor of decision making. I think we're always gonna need a human being in there somewhere. We've added, and we don't even really talk about it anymore. We have a media supply chain right now that we've automated, we've added AI to, but there are areas we say this is both, you know, automation and human. People still want the human element in there, just to that, I call it the gut check. Like, AI still needs a gut check. Ask me in 5 years, I don't know, but right now, today, as we're sitting on the stage, we still need a bit of a gut check. I gut check all my ChatGPT questions because I just feel like it's been watching me, you know, it's like the intruder. It's been watching me too much, and now it knows exactly what I want it to say. But is that reality?
Right. We're actually going to. That is a good prompt for another question, but I want to hear from Mark, his take on this first.
Not on the Roomba.
Yeah, well, my whole answer changed. So I think, to the question of what AI is capable of and how it's being used and how it could be used, I mean, I think, look, all of us, we've all used ChatGPT, we all use OpenAI. We could all go out to Amazon or Google and get an AI engine. The difference being the human element, right? It's the people in this room understanding this industry. And this isn't meant to be a sales pitch, but that's really the value prop of Symphony AI, bringing AI in a vertically focused approach. So we've got retail, FinServe, and in media, you know, I've got folks with decades worth of experience that is teaching our AI engine what this industry is, what the terminology means and what it intends to mean, which are completely different things in many cases, to then allow the AI engine to really understand what's happening in ways that a generic one could not. And I think that's kind of one of the demarcation lines to really allow AI to really facilitate great advancement and great automation within the space.
Okay, so now to circle back to what Michele said, I'm going to stick with you because you were very patient. One of the things, and we've all seen the AIs do this, you ask it you give it a basic, pretty simple idea of yours, nothing that great, and it's just gushes, oh, that's brilliant, that's the best thing ever, blah, blah, blah. Like, how much of an issue is it that AI tends to sort of be agreeable and not push back and sort of go for the tried and true all the time, the expected, as opposed to not doing something that a human, that spark that a human might add? Or are there certain tasks where that doesn't matter because you just want someone to do, this sort of straightforward, basic task?
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes to training. Embarrassingly, an AI engine told me I was wrong just yesterday when I posed a question and an idea to it. But it really comes down to that training element, right? It's the understanding of what I'm asking and the intent behind it, and an understanding of the data to really give an appropriate response. There's absolute bias, there's absolute hallucination, which is kind of an industry term where, there's enough data that's weighting a decision or an answer in this way, regardless of it being correct. There's just a higher volume of it. And I think really using it in ways that is more factual, that is data-driven, without, kind of the superfluous, World Wide Web. There's social media that we're actually using to bring in and bring sentiment analysis to our industry, but that's really just echoing and magnifying the industry. We don't use that for business case decisions, right? Mathematical equations, distribution, rates, strategies, none of that data is used there because it invites the actual bias that you're just explaining right there.
Okay, Douglas.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because we do take in some of those elements, but the sentiment from us and our signals, what we're doing is actually using AI to actually go through and recognize that intent. And that's where we can begin to do that at scale. And so it is no longer just a demographics layer, it is a really refined psychographic layer that now the intent to watch, the intent to buy, those signals are starting to come through, and that's where it really, I think, is yes, it still needs a gut check, as was mentioned, but I think there's still capabilities there that we're exponentially getting toward, whether it's recommendation engines, whether it's email marketing campaigns, so they're more specifically targeted. There are absolute ways that we are using it.
Gotcha, Melva.
So it's interesting. When you're talking about tasks around the media industry that are specific about whether it's a buy, advertising, those are very straightforward. So there is no opinion necessary on that. If you set your thresholds, it's like you buy at 20, you sell at 15. It's very, very straightforward. But when you're talking about, hey, did this show do well? Or what's the inherent value of the show? What an analyst goes through to sort of determine that, 15% of it is the same across every media company, and it's the other 85% that is specific to that company in terms of what they deem as important and all of those things. I can remember in the beginning of my career, we would do ultimates at Turner. I was at Cartoon Network at the very beginning in '93, and an ultimate was trying to figure out 5 years out, how much value could you get from a show? That does not exist now. So how do you teach that to an agent, right? Yeah. Because the questions still exist. You still have to answer the question. And so now where we are is sort of looking at all of this data that we have and recognizing that the set of questions is still the same. What did you watch? Who are you? When does it matter anymore? Digital took that out, right? How did you watch is a different question. And screens are hard and soft, depending on where you were when you throw social media in there, because I could still consume it. And so now, as we're teaching this agent, or I'm teaching this agent, it's been this really interesting thing because I do have a level of snark that goes in that I used to use with data. It's like, look, if it's 20% up, you can say a curse word. If it's 20% down, you can say that sucks, right? But as you're trying to teach it how to infer, it's a really interesting thing because there's nothing to point to, right?
So if
Yeah,
I
please,
could kind of respond to
please,
that.
please.
I think, but AI is capable of that, right? So
Yes.
as an example, and again, this is not meant to be a sales pitch, but asking, our engine, did this show do well? The response really would be, depends on what you define as well. And then it would say, do you mean time spent viewing? Do you mean monetization? Do you mean in the primary DMAs, which have ad revenue implications? And all of that data could source back and respond to you if it understands the intent and the definition of this industry. So it's certainly absolutely very possible.
Gotcha, Michele. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it depends who asks the question. That's another piece of it. It's like if you ask it, it's going to give you one question, one answer. If I ask, I'm going to get another answer for sure. So that's where the fear factor for me is. Like if you know anyone outside the industry or like in a psychoanalytical position, they're terrified of what's coming back to people because the average consumer is just like they're listening to ChatGPT. They're using it as therapy. They're using it, and it's just massive amounts of data coming from sources, and then kind of occupying itself around that individual, and it's a scary place. It really is. It's not, it's all variable. It's not finite, and everyone's getting different answers. And like I said, if I ask if that show is doing well, it is by far going to give me a different answer. So who's to say that what we have in the industry, or what we're using in the industry, is definitive versus the average consumer who just sits down and pushes buttons on TV? So.
Right, and just to amplify that, I don't know how many of you had heard, I think it was the Daily podcast, it was in the last 2 or 3 weeks, that this has happened a number of times, where they were talking about some guy in Canada who was like a normal guy who had come up with what he thought was this brilliant take on how to do the number of pi, or I think it was pi. I think it was like sort of figure out pi. And ChatGPT kept telling him, "Oh, this is brilliant. No one's ever thought of this before." And he kind of went with it for a while and just like completely humiliated himself. And like, there's a lot of that goes down now, where it just sort of, basically like, flatters people into doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And John, I'm now.
Yeah, I can give you a fun anecdote. Now I'm like doing proper product management as part of a big company at Magnite. So instead of like YOLOing features with my co-founder, and I had to do a PRD, product requirements document it is going to be an awesome, massive feature in 2026. But I was like, working on the forecast, and it was like, this is going to generate 500 billion in revenue for Magnite. And I'm like, you know what? It is going to generate 500 billion in revenue. Adam, Barrett, 500 billion. And then I'm like, wait, this seems a little skewed. And I'm like, here's how our actual revenue, here's our actual market cap. And it was like, okay, now it's probably going to be more like this. I'm like, whew. But like, it just would, it really like fluffs you up if you don't, you have to, it's only, all of AI is only so good as the inputs. So you have to train on your actual data, which is the double-edged sword. You have to go through security and InfoSec to like actually train on your data if you want to do that, and then it'll give you more realistic numbers.
Right, and I want to push you a little bit on the creative part too, because you're having it like make ads. Like, how do you get it to have a spark? Like, how do you get it to have, don't just do the same ad for everybody?
So a lot of that really comes down to, again, everything's all about the input. So the more inputs and the better inputs, the better outputs. So we're always pulling from more sources like scraping your website, Google Business, Yelp, Shopify, catalogs, et cetera. We're always adding more sources. Our newest model, 4.1, we call it generative storytelling. And the idea is it's the first model where we're not training it on reference images of your products. It's actually from text to video prompts, using the latest and greatest with like Google VO 3.1 or Sora 2. And that's really how you get like magic and differentiated storytelling through the prompts. And we always go back to, we'll generate a commercial for you. You'll see the prompts we automatically made for each frame of a 30-second commercial, but then you can go and edit them and then regenerate yourself. So that's how you can kind of make it unique.
Very cool. So we only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to do this and sort of pick up from Colin, that sort of lightning round. Like, I'm going to ask you guys, I'll give you a second to sort of think about it. What is the one thing that AI could do in this ideal world that you think would really have the most impact on the streaming industry? Like, what's sort of one thing you wish, if you could snap your fingers and say, oh, AI can fix this, like, what would it be? And I'm going to start with you, because you're always good on your feet. Yeah.
It kind of goes back to my holy grail is what I said earlier. It's turning CTV and all of advertising into the stock market, where it's all fully automated, where you basically capture a moment. You can see there's a contextually relevant moment. It could be like, I did a joke on LinkedIn or something about Game of Thrones. You just watch the Red Wedding, and I hope to not spoil this by now for people. And the crazy event of the Red Wedding happens, and I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but like the Knot could capture that event in the next commercial break, because now there's commercials on like HBO Max. You'd have a contextually relevant ad for the Knot. It's like, if you don't want your wedding to be messed up like the Red Wedding, you should use the Knot or something, and you could capture that.
I'm glad you went that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In real time, and you, in theory, could bid up, and that would be a very valuable piece of ad real estate for the Knot. And that would all happen agent to agent. There'd be no human in the loop even making that buying decision.
Okay, so Mark, other than avoiding dead guests at your wedding, what?
I mean, I think ideal state for me, and it's technically possible today, it just comes down to business and strategic decisions, and that's truly federated data sharing, right? I look at some of my sister companies in retail, in fintech, and blah, 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 where data is widely shared and available to the benefit of everyone in the ecosystem, right? You could look at what programs are doing well on what platforms, and use that to inform your own production, your own ad revenue, your own targeting. You could do segmenting from content recommendations, just like you do on advertising, if that data is shared. And I'm kind of seeing the walled gardens kind of come down a little bit, both from demand and necessity because of the advent of AI. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that accelerate, because I think that truly could benefit every single participant throughout the entire ecosystem.
Very cool. Douglas?
Yeah, I like what Mark said. I'll take it to the next step, though. It's not just the sharing of data, but I think it's the commonality of a metric that we can all agree on. That would be my holy grail, because then we're actually looking at the new iteration. I like to say, when people talk about viewership, they're talking about miles per gallon, and I'm driving an EV. And so it really is about, we need to be in a language, and not to be selling, but for us, it really is that demand, and that is the new currency.
That's a great analogy. I'm going to steal that. Michele?
From a business standpoint, I still harp on this better predictability. As we were mentioning, we're moving faster, so we're always trying to catch up. But the predictability factor is going to be a big one. I think it's going to have an impact on. So from a business standpoint, being able to predict, better would be more helpful. From a consumer standpoint, because I always put my consumer hat on, because they say your best consumers are the people that are in the industry. It's just like the recommendations are still at a level that we can't live with. Like, it's just. And we're still with the phone. We want to see, and I'm in this industry, and I feel like I've been doing it for a long time, and the recommendation factors are just not there yet. And you'd think by now, at this point where everything is moving so fast with AI, and there's a million companies out there that are doing it, that we would have even been closer to a better, but our search is still the same. It has not changed.
Yes. Take it home.
I'm smiling, look, because we've been in media for a very long time, and it's like all of that existed when you only had Nielsen. It's like transparency, metrics, and media cannot.
We believed it.
Well, it's not that. It's that media can't work without transparency. And when all the tech pros, Google and guys showed up and, no, we're going to keep all our data, then that breaks media. It's impossible for media to have transformation and all of those things without collaboration. Mm-hmm. And if you know your history of media, every time those things happen is because we all, as competitors, got together and said, okay, let's do this. This is how we're going to have cable ratings. Okay, this is how we're going to. I was sitting in those rooms when we made decisions about how we were going to talk about it. And so to kind of get to that place, that is the thing that has to happen. I don't know how it's led, because it's just different now. It's a different conversation. But for me, what could happen would be, and I'll put my consumer hat on like you did and say, you know, when you delinearize television, basically you lose discovery. And no one has solved for discovery. You cannot search for what you don't know. And so that's where it's confusion. It's like, if I don't know the name of the show, how can I Google it, right? But when
And
it
which
was,
platform to search it on.
correct. But when it was linear, eventually the ad would show up, right? The ad would find you and pop up. And so there is a part of me that hopes that consumers, we can get them to evolve just like we did finally. I can remember when Webvan first said, ooh, everyone's going to buy groceries online, and they didn't. And now they do because we had a pandemic. I don't think we need a pandemic to fix this.
No.
But
Or
when
a
we
red
can-
wedding.
But if we can get the consumer to move to this place where we can